Hello, my name is Tom Ewing. And I am recording this at Misawa. And I will be teaching from Misawa live streaming classes that originate here and they are received at a remote site. This video is directed towards the computer lab monitor at the remote site, and it describes the operation that we will use. A day or two before the class meets, I will Xerox, well, actually not Xerox. What I'll do is I will scan the quiz that I prepared for that class, and I will email it to you. Please take the scanned quiz that I email you and produce enough quiz copies for each member of your section. Please just use front side, not double sides. Students sometimes complain they didn't see the back side. We want to avoid that. And just staple the pages together and prepare the quizzes. We will take one quiz each class meeting. So you will have those prepared quizzes in your possession at the start of the class. Also, just before the class starts, please distribute to the students their graded quizzes from the last week. Now, I will get these to you once again by scanning them in and emailing them to you. So at the start of class, please distribute the graded quizzes from the previous week to the students, which you will have, and stand ready with the quizzes for this particular night. What I'd like you to do at the start of each class is to take a stapler and to place it into a table or site that is on camera. Now, in general, the camera will be at the front of the room. For example, mine will be behind me. So just be sure that the stapler is on camera. This will be our collection point for the students. Then there's not much more for you to do for the next half hour or hour while myself and the students go over the homework and prepare ourselves for the quiz. At the end of that review session, we will start the quiz and we will need you again. I don't know what's going to work out to be best, that you just stay within earshot, or we actually ask a student to go and fetch you. It doesn't much matter as long as we don't spend too much time trying to track you down and lose class time. So when you return to the room, then we will begin our test preparation. And the first thing that must happen is that the students must bring up their homework to the stapler, and they must staple it. And at the top of the front page, they should write week, say, suppose it's week 3, and then their name. And then staple it and drop it at the collection point. So you should be sure that all of the students pass in their homework at that time, that no student has their homework in their possession as the quiz begins. So once the homework is done, then we're ready to begin the quiz. So what you will do is take some blank answer sheets and distribute 2 or 3 to each student, and then there will be the extra answer sheets that can be near the stapler, and they can come up and get extra ones on their own as they need them. Please have the student write at the top of each answer sheet the number of the quiz that it is, for example, quiz 3, and also the name on each sheet, so that we don't have any problem. Then you will distribute the quizzes that you have Xeroxed and stapled, one quiz packet to each student, and we will be near ready to begin the quiz. But before you distribute the quizzes, we need to have you be absolutely sure that, one, every student is on camera. Actually, I omitted this. This is something you should do at the beginning of the hour also. Be sure that every student is seated on camera. If they're not, please ask them to move so they are seated on camera. If they object, then I'll handle that particular case myself. And now, just before you pass out the question pages, be sure that every student has an absolutely clean desktop. We don't want any bags, we don't want any papers, we don't want any books, we don't want any thing of any kind that could be used in the test. All they should be having is their pencil and a calculator. And they must have a standard calculator. They cannot use a phone or a tab calculator. If they have one, then you have to tell them to put it away, and they must have a standard calculator in order to use it on the test. So they have an absolutely clean desktop, and they have a standard calculator. Then you can distribute the answer sheets followed by the question sheets. Now, the reason I'm being so careful is that in the previous course I taught last semester, we found 4 instances of copying and cheating. They were quite extensive, and we had to investigate, and we went through a very lengthy process with lots of paperwork, lots of bureaucracy, and we ended up with sanctions against 4 students. And we want to avoid having to do that. So our mode this time is to have prevention of the cheating, not to have to prosecute it after it happens. It's much too time-consuming and lengthy and energy-draining a process. So we need you to do your best to ensure that we don't have to do that, that there is no cheating or copying. So the 2 things that have to be in effect are an absolutely clean desk policy and using only a standard calculator. Now, when the test begins, we have found out that you have to stay in the room. And not only do you have to stay in the room, you have to stay in the room doing nothing except watching these students. Some of them are very adept and experienced at deceiving you, and if they're given an opportunity, they will do so. If you attempt to read or to text on your phone, or actually if you even leave the room, everything is over. All of this can take place, and we don't want that to happen. Once again, we want to prevent all of the cheating. We instituted this policy on the last quiz of the course that I mentioned, and we did come up with an absolute honest quiz. So it is worth its weight to do it, to make this expenditure early on. So we ask you to do this, to stay in the room during the quiz and to watch all of the students and make sure that there is no misbehavior happening. Each student, when they finish the test, will bring it up to the collection point, and with their own hands, not you but them, they will staple their pages together and drop it at the collection point. They are then free to take a personal break out of the room until the test is over, and they should keep checking back to make sure they don't stay back too long, and they do come back when the test is over. And when the test is over, then please collect the answer sheets, and each student can keep their question sheets. That's okay, they can keep the question sheets. Collect the answer sheets, and then you can leave the room again. Well, we won't actually need you for the rest of the night. For the remainder of the night, the students will be giving oral presentations. Now, let's talk about how you're going to get these tests to me. Each student has stapled their test with their own hands. That means that the responsibility for the pages in that test rests with them. We do not want to break that staple. Then the responsibility lies with us, and we're guilty of lost pages. So we will not scan and email these tests. We will not scan and email these tests to me. They will be gotten to me by putting them together with the homework that you collected into a large brown envelope, writing my address on the front, MPS in the upper right-hand corner, your return address, and putting it into the MPS box. This is much better than going through the scanning and email process, which produced a lot of lost pages and a lot of headaches. So we will get all of this material to myself using MPS system. Now, this is a next step has to be clarified a little bit yet. What would be best, for example, here at Misawa, at our post office, we have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week MPS drop chute. All you have to do is pull the chute out and drop the MPS packet in, and you can do that anytime, day or night. If your base also has an MPS drop chute 24/7 in your post office, and you would be willing to seal the envelope and put some good tape around it too, not Scotch tape, but some good tape around the top of it so it doesn't come loose in transit, and write my address on it and the MPS and your return address, and if you could drop it in that chute on your way home, this would facilitate getting it to me in time for me to grade it and get it back to you for the next class meeting. Plan B is that you just take it to the office of your field representatives, and the next morning they do the same. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't for a day or two. And sometimes we don't get the quiz back to the student by the next week because of that. So it's much more efficient if you would be willing to get it in the mail that night. That is, if your PO post office does have that 24/7 drop chute. So I'd like to thank you for your attention in listening to this, and I'll be getting back to you, and we will talk back and forth about doing this, and we'll reach a consensus between yourself and myself. I will get my MPS address to you by email so that you have a good hard copy sitting in front of you. And so good luck, and thanks a lot for listening to this.